There you go.
We don't care.
Oh,
You
awesome.
look good. You look good, and your story
Thank you.
is as beautiful as you are. So that's why I wanted to make sure that people see you and not just hear you.
Absolutely.
All right, are we good to go?
Yeah.
All right, so Priya, this is What's Your Sankalp? Welcome to season 5. Over 35 conversations with people from across the world, and here we are talking to you, Priya. Thank you so much for giving me your time. And I will need your
Absolutely.
help. I will need your help to introduce you. Usually, I do a good job of doing the homework of getting to know who my guest is and what they do, but you do a bunch of things. What do I call
Yeah.
a content creator, an explorer, a model, a traveler, and I finalized to a nickname, which is, if it's okay to say, the Indian version of Dora the Explorer. Is it okay? Is it safe?
Wow. Yeah, that's great.
Have you heard that one before?
No, I haven't. That's the first.
That makes me feel good. So tell us, Priya, how do I introduce you to the world today? At least I know you must have been a billion things before, but today, who are you?
Yeah. Today I'm a mom of three dogs apparently. Um I'm at home in Seattle. I'm not traveling quite as much anymore. I'm actually recovering from an MCL tear. So I
Okay.
haven't been Dora the Explorer for the Indian version for a while now since I've been healing from that. So I
Right.
think today I'm just an average Joe.
Just a girl next door in Seattle. But
Yeah, just a girl next door.
before we talk about what you're doing today. Yeah, I want this conversation to be a journey that my listeners can listen to and hopefully get inspired and motivated. And that is what we do on this show. We bring people like
Yeah.
you, Priya, and document their journey. Yeah, and the hope is someone will take away, if not entertainment, they take it as an inspiration. So, so Priya, you are called you're famously known as the wild Indian girl. If it's okay,
Yeah.
start from there. Why that name?
Yeah.
Was it given to you? Did you bump into it randomly? Did you have other choices and eventually you stuck to it? So tell us that story.
And now, I feel like I've always been called a bit wild. Like, I didn't really practice the normal like Indian girl journey, like
Right.
getting married young, having kids young, and like settling down and stuff like that. So I've always been like the wild child of the family. My mom and dad have two kids, so me and my sister. She's like the perfect golden child. Like she's gotten her degree, she's gotten a husband, she's two kids, three on the way. So I am like I like how people have like rebel stages. I feel like my
Yeah.
entire life is a rebel stage where I'm just like, you know what, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna do my own thing. I'm gonna explore the world, I'm gonna travel, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. So I've always been called a bit of like a wild card, like you never know what's gonna happen.
Right.
So I decided to be the wild Indian girl because I kind of am. I'm just one of those wild Indian girls that don't fit into a box. They create their
Right.
own boxes, and I create my own path, my own destiny, my own future. My family's from India. I was born in India, but I was raised here, so you can't really hear any of my Indian accent. I don't have it.
Right.
Um, I'm very happy about that because I feel like a lot of people, when they talk to me, they don't think I'm Indian. So they don't have
Right.
any of like the notions of like, oh, you're an Indian, you should be a doctor or whatever. I was born there. I was raised here. I moved when I was 8 years old.
Okay.
Mom and dad came in to America for like the big American dream, better life, better school, better everything. So
Right.
we moved here. We actually moved to Detroit in the beginning. So when I was 8 years old, I was in Detroit, and then we moved to Seattle when I was 12.
Okay.
And we've been here ever since. And we're from South India. Not like super south, like Hyderabad, Andhra
Okay.
Pradesh area. So it's not like super south, but it's like not Delhi. My
Right.
grandma has been hounding me to visit. She'd be like, "When are you coming?" And I'm like, "I'm coming. I will be there
Right.
eventually."
So this adventurous spirit of traveling across the world, has that originated from India? Have you done a lot of exploring in India before you did this in the United States? Can you share a little bit of that?
No, I actually have not visited anything in India. So I would love to visit
Right.
when I get a chance and actually like visit all around because India is beautiful and I feel like I just haven't had the time to do it just yet. My first trip actually was the Southeast Asia. I went to Thailand, I did Vietnam, I did there were places around there. I think I did Thailand. That was my first trip. And then Vietnam, and then came back to the United States. And then I've done, a bucket of other adventures.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I haven't visited anything in India, honestly. And I really want to. I've been wanting to like put together like a trip to go back. But I feel like something always came up like before I wanted to go and like COVID came up and I was just like, ah, shoot, like I don't want to do that. And
Right.
then I got married to the whitest of all white guys. So like we've got to like, ease him into the hot weather. So I'm like,
Right.
okay, I'll go in like, winter so we can both kind of like
Right.
survive.
Yeah.
Um, and then I've always gotten like jobs and stuff that like popped up here and there. So like I did a lot of like tourism jobs. And so I just haven't been able to like,
Did you have a traditional career to begin with? Let's talk about that because coming from that part of the world, it's not usual for people to have a passion where they can explore the world and have a social media life, right? So has that
yeah,
always been the case since the beginning, or did your career
no,
start differently than what you are today?
no. So I feel like the traditional Indian thing for a woman is either a doctor or an engineer. And I think that's for men too. It's a
Right. Yeah.
doctor or an engineer. You pick one path and you go in that path.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to be a lawyer. Um, so I didn't fall in the two paths to begin with.
Right.
And
Right.
then I so I did that. I went to school at SU for psychology. So I majored in psychology and then minored in ethics.
Okay.
Um, and then I just woke up one day and I said, you know what? I don't really want to do this. I want to travel because I haven't seen anything in
Right.
this world. Like I haven't seen a single waterfall or a
Right.
single mountain. And it sounds so bizarre now because I've seen it
Yeah.
all now.
Right.
Um, but I haven't like seen anything in this world. And I haven't seen anything unless it was with my parents. So
Right.
I wanted to do things by myself.
Right.
And kind of explore the world by yourself because when you are with by yourself and or um like your friends, you're obviously a lot different than when you are with your parents. So I wanted to have that solo, unfiltered experience because when you're with your parents too, it's like you always have someone to like rescue you. Like, my dad's always been like the rescuer. He'll come in, he'll save the day kind of stuff.
Right.
And while I really appreciate that and genuinely like my heart really like is touched by that, I wanted to do things myself and I wanted to get into trouble myself to know that I can get out of trouble myself and to like stand on my own 2 feet and be independent and be very like I can do it. I can do whatever I set my mind to.
Right.
um that is how my parents raised both my sister and I. So like we're both very independent women. Like we are like, I don't really care if I don't have a husband. I don't really care if I don't have like the man of the family. Like it's cool. We
Right.
can survive, we can support, we can thrive and we can do things. So like that's how my parents raised us. So traveling solo and stuff like that was something I just kind of woke up one day and I was just like, I kind of want to do that because I have the opportunity to.
Well, it's not easy to wake up one fine day and make that switch, right? To
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
independent life. So tell us about the reality of it, right? The support, the expenses, and sustaining a lifestyle, a healthy lifestyle, and all of that. Did you have an initial support? Were you working jobs, other jobs while you were, pursuing your adventures of exploring the world? And now,
Yeah.
eventually, are you only focused on exploring, or are you doing something else on the side so that you have enough money in the bank to do whatever you want to do?
Yeah, I feel like when you hear influencer, a lot of people have like misconceptions of like how cheap it is. Like it's expensive. Like
Yeah,
it's really fucking expensive, especially when you turn 20. Like after you turn 26, you're not under your parents' healthcare. So like you're
yeah,
also paying for your own healthcare. And when
right,
you're traveling, your health goes a lot higher because you want to be safer and you want to be like, more protected and stuff. So
right.
when I started off, I definitely didn't have a good plan. I
Mm.
did luck out. I will say I am very privileged in the fact that I worked with a lot of like hardworking photographers. So like they were pushing
Okay,
themselves out there and they were doing all these things. And so I I quit my job with I think like $4,000 in my bank account. And like looking at it now, I'm like, that doesn't get you shit. Like that doesn't even get you
yeah,
one trip.
yeah,
Um definitely did not even know what I was doing. And so I quit, I did that, and then I ended up booking trips and booking jobs very early on.
okay,
But I had a lot of things going for me. I feel like a lot of people don't think of the other stuff that kind of like go for you. Like I was a very I was Indian, so I'm ethnic. I'm a woman and I travel. I like, so I had a lot of cards in my hand that I could
yeah,
play for
yeah,
brands and stuff like that. And I like took 100% advantage of it. And I was like, yeah, I will be your brown girl in front
yeah,
of this water bottle. I will be this and I will be that. And I kind of like, I never put anything like beneath me. Like it wasn't like, oh, it's beneath me to work this. So I worked a lot and I hustled a lot.
okay,
I will say like I didn't get my first real like paid job like by myself. Like I did get paid jobs via other photographers that I was working with. So like if I was working with like a friend of a friend or something like that, they would be like, "Hey, I have a job. It's like $100. Are you interested in like taking the job on?" And I would be like, "Yeah, absolutely." But then my first real job wasn't until like 4 years into the game.
okay,
Um, 4 years of traveling, 4 years of producing content, 4 years of like really pushing myself out there. I didn't really get my first like real job until then. And I signed with Backcountry.
okay. Mhm.
That was my first retainer. And they were the ones that supported me through like the beginning stages. And then after that, it was just kind of like a waterfall effect or an avalanche effect. I ended
Right.
up getting a job after job after job because I put myself out there. But there it is expensive. Like a lot of people think it's like, oh, it's super easy. Like you can wake up one day and be an influencer. It's like, no, like you have to put so much work into it. And my
Right.
parents didn't really understand that in the beginning because I mean, like, as an Indian parent, they're just like, oh, making money on Instagram, like doing posts and stuff. Like, that's super weird. I didn't even know that was a job. But now my parents see how much work actually goes into it. Like, I spend days on blog posts, I spend days on, like, my Instagram feed. I am very, like, meticulous on, like, what I'm posting, what I'm pushing out there and why I'm doing it. Um, so a lot of time goes into it, a lot of money goes into it. I feel like if you're starting off, save a little bit of money
Right.
and then do it. Don't just like jump into it because you think it's going to work out. Like it might not. So if you have a stable job, explore being an influencer over like the weekends
Yeah.
and see where that gets you. And then if when you make enough money in like, the influencer side, then you can let go of your job, you're like your 9 to 5 and you can like actually succeed. I feel like a lot of people let go of the 9 to 5 before they've established themselves as an influencer. And then they're like, shoot, I don't have any money and I don't have this and I don't have that. And I'm like, yeah, like, what did you think it was going to be?
Right, right. So, no, that's why I wanted to clarify when you said you woke up one fine day and you realized you have to do something else. I
Yeah.
don't want people to watch this
Yeah.
episode and wake up tomorrow and, pursue a dream without having the
No, no, no.
numbers and facts, right?
I Yeah, and again, I do want to emphasize I am very privileged. My mom and dad are definitely different than other people's. They've supported this journey of like exploring and stuff like that. They might not have been happy about it, but they were there. And so that's not the case for everyone.
Yeah,
For a lot of people, you have to like justify what you're doing, especially as a woman in this world. You have to justify like why you want to do something you want to do, and you have to bring proof. It's like a fucking court case. It's like, oh, here's the evidence and
right,
here's the results and here's this and here's that. There's a process to it. So like
right,
invest time into it and really look at it. And a lot of people also don't understand like influencer life has a lot more highs and lows than a
right.
regular 9 to 5. So like a
Yeah,
regular 9 to 5, you punch in, you punch out, you get your paycheck at the end of the month. I
yeah,
punch in my influencer work, I punch out literally never. It's a 24/7 job. Um, and I might not get paid at the end of that month. I might not get paid at the end of next month. Like, I'll do a job, like we have a job coming up, and the contract in that will be like, yeah, you'll finish all your deliverables and you're not getting paid for 60 days after
right.
you finish all your deliverables. So
Okay.
it's not a constant stream of like a constant stream of income. I would like very highly suggest like have a plan and
Right,
like stick to the plan and stay consistent. Like don't just like jump into something because you see a TikTok video that
right.
says like I make $5,000 a month, and I'm like, yeah, she might,
Yeah,
but she's not telling you that's probably like 15 years of work. She's
right,
probably not telling you that's like a ton of sleepless nights. That's a ton of like worrying about, can I pay rent? Can I do this? Can I do that? Like they're not talking about that side.
right,
So if you want to be an influencer, take a second, check your bank account, check your health insurance, make a plan to like, okay, well, and if you're renting like an apartment, make a plan
yeah,
being like, okay, do I have 6 months of rent
right,
before I let go of this job, before I do this, before I do that? Because it's not easy.
right,
As
right.
much as the TikTok videos are deceiving, it's
Yeah.
not an easy job.
Yeah, I mean, when you mention about rent, you're not actually living in that place for majority of your time as you travel.
Mhm.
So there's also that
Yeah.
aspect where you're paying for
Yeah.
a room where you don't live, and maybe you sublet or do some kind of things to make sure that income is that place is being paid off by someone else or something. But it's not that easy as it sounds, right? uh
Yeah.
you can't find someone to replace in your house like every month or something like that. So
No.
Another
Yeah.
thing,
So
another thing that you mentioned about is, which I had no idea about, or I didn't think of when I saw your content, was health insurance. That's
yeah.
funny. How important is that? And things like that. So health insurance is something that I would never think of when I see your content. Okay, this girl is
Yeah.
traveling this much. You have to be careful about, getting into, unforeseen, circumstances. So you need to have that, and that has to be applicable to wherever you are in the world, I guess. So it varies where when you travel. But what are other things like that people don't think of when they look at your content? Do you think you can share that with us?
I feel like the mundane part of life, I mean, like health insurance, like
Yeah,
dental and vision, um, random little things like that. I feel like nobody really thinks about. I also don't think a lot of people think about like mental health when you look at my content.
right,
Um, my mental health definitely took a massive hit being a content creator, because a lot of my content revolves around my body.
right,
So I definitely do have a lot of like body and like self love issues that I like work through
right.
myself with therapy and stuff like that. But that's something that I feel like not a lot of people like see. I try my best to go through all my comments and delete things that are sensitive to like other people as well.
Right.
But on a daily basis, I get the comments of like, oh, like you've gained weight, or oh, you don't look good, or like this and this, and like all these things. So I feel like all like mental health is also something that not a lot of people think of, because I just look happy in all my photos and I look like I'm living the dream in all of my reels and like my TikToks and stuff like that. A lot of times, like I don't know if you've seen any of like my Iceland photos. I got hurt in Iceland. I slammed a car door on my finger and I was bleeding, and we had to run to the ER at 3 a.m. in the morning. And I still carried out the rest of my shoots. And you can't tell with that. So it's like a lot of pain is also involved in a lot of these like shoots and stuff. And that doesn't come through in
Right.
any of the content. So I
Right.
feel like mental health and like the boring stuff like health insurance, vision, dental,
Mhm.
just healthiness of like the daily like life, the day-to-day life. Like you'll see me eating like really unhealthy on camera, or just things whatever I want, but then I actually do take really good care of my body. So like I do, like I work out, I eat healthy, I sleep well. It's like there's a lot that goes into it.
But I feel like you're a lot more candid and honest in your stories on Instagram
Yeah.
than you are on maybe your posts, if you compare it like that. But that's a very good thing that you do, that I would like to, highlight, in terms of your fitness, or you're not like all dressed up, or, having your makeup or something, something like that every time you post on your story, right? Which is very
Yeah.
different from what you do on your post. Has that, happened over time, or were you always like that from the beginning on that particular profile?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I was always like that. My feed was always curated because I knew that was what brands would look at.
Right,
But my stories were always unfiltered because I know that's where I'm connecting with my followers.
right,
Uh, so I've always been the no makeup girl. So like I don't wear any makeup.
right,
I'm not wearing any makeup now either.
right.
Um, always been like, love your skin. Obviously protect your skin. Anybody, if you take anything out of this, please wear sunscreen. Like just put it on the sunscreen.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I've always been candid on my stories and just kind of like sharing my like emotions and my feelings and my thoughts, because it kind of gives you a glimpse of like my day. And I
Right.
wanted to keep that like honest and raw.
So So going back a little bit, being on this path or this passion that you're pursuing, has the health, in terms of mental health, has that gone worse, like as you progressed in your life, or did you have that, that bother you even before you were, having a big brand of your name on social media? Like, has that started before this, or do you think that kind of escalated a little bit because of the demands of this passion?
Um, I've had body image issues since growing up.
Right.
I don't look it now, but I was 100 pounds
Okay.
for the majority of my life. I think I was 100 at like 21 and
Okay.
22. Like I was a full grown adult and I was like 100 pounds and I looked very unhealthy, but I was healthy. Like it wasn't like I was bulimic, and I wasn't practicing any like, self-harm um stuff. It was just like I
Right.
just could not gain weight. And
Right.
so growing up, I always had like, the aunties tell you like, oh, you should eat more food. And I'm like, cool, you should eat less. So like
Yeah.
so I've had that. So that's definitely affected me in a lot of ways. And it still does affect me like today. But I ended up like when I started doing Instagram, I ended up taking that as an advantage because that was what was seeked back in the day. Now it's become a lot more normal to have normal bodies and like normal scars and normal like shapes and figures and stuff like that. But back then, my body, like the way that it looked back then, was considered like ideal body. And so I played into it and I was like, yeah, I am an Indian and I'm traveling and I do have the ideal body. And so I definitely like took advantage of that.
Right.
Um, it does have like a negative connotation, like when you grow older, because like now, like, my metabolism is slowed down and like a lot of things are different. I get injured a lot easier, which, takes you back on your progress and stuff like that.
Right.
So I feel like it was there always. I don't think it's gotten any worse. Like I
Right.
said, I do go to therapy, so that's always great to work on yourself, not just for like body image issues, but like other things as well.
Right.
Um, so yeah.
Well, I will ask you about your favorite places or trips down the conversation, definitely. But I also want to ask you what kind of like partnerships or businesses or jobs or job titles can people look forward to while they are doing the content creation on Instagram? And the other part of this question is how much do you invest yourself, in terms of money personally, whether it's on Instagram or your personal website or any other engagements, so that you always have a growth of the name, Wild Indian Girl. What kind of investments do you think people should be expecting to make? And it's good investments, it's not like a loss of money. Sometimes people fear, oh, should I, put money into this, or, will it really help me? Like a website, which looks really good and showcases everything that you've done in the past decade or something like that.
Yeah. A website is definitely something I would invest in. And it kind of depends on like the brand that you're trying to build. So like I built the brand of like empowering women. So like I wanted to be like a knowledge-based brand. So like you can come to me for questions and I will like help you answer them the best I can.
Right.
So I invested in a website for with like a blog post and stuff like that, which I definitely don't take advantage of. I should.
Right.
Um, but I would invest in like a good website. I would also invest in like a good branding.
Okay.
um so like you get to know like your colors and your fonts and your like who you are on like a piece of paper.
Right.
um so that helps people connect with you a little bit better and like staying consistent. So I would invest in those two things. um
What do you mean by that when you say you would invest in branding? Is it someone you do have a consulting with, or how does that work?
yeah, so branding, so if you go onto my website you'll see like my colors.
Right. Yeah.
I have like a color palette, I have a font palette, I have like my hero logo and like all these other things. And I try to use those as much as possible, like throughout my stories, throughout my Instagram, and kind of keeping it consistent from like one to another.
Got it.
So I would invest in like a really good web designer that like will create a website that when like a client lands on your like on your website, they know exactly what they're signing up for. And
Right.
they I would also invest in like branding so that like your colors stay consistent. So like I try my best to also dress in my brand's colors.
Right.
Um so it stays consistent throughout like my feed and my website and stuff like that. So I would invest in those two things. I don't really think I'd invest in anything else.
Okay.
Um, to be honest, like I didn't really find I've invested in a lot of stuff, like the Instagram classes and like the Pinterest classes and stuff like that. I don't necessarily think they're relevant anymore because like right now people are following you for like who you are. So
Right.
like that's where a lot of my growth came. I shot from I think like 60,000 to like 190,000 over a course of like a month because of one reel taking off. And that was just me being me.
Right.
Um, and the same goes to now. I've gained an additional 90,000 followers for just posting reels that are me.
Right.
Um, so I would take a couple of classes that are completely free. Google has classes that are completely free that you can sign up for. Meta has classes that are completely free.
Right.
Go on those, or YouTube is like the mother of all information. Go on YouTube, search your topic and just watch a couple of videos, see what works and what doesn't, and then just try it out. And like, I wouldn't waste money on like other stuff like that. Um, I will say, if you are looking to create content and if you are like looking to grow and like reach out to brands, I sell like my brands list where you can sign up and like it'll give you all the emails for brands that I've personally worked with, and you can start conversations. But like that's kind of like what I would invest in. I just wouldn't invest in like Instagram classes or like Pinterest classes, because the platform changes so much
Yeah.
that like when you start a class and by the time you finish it, like they'll say it's a 4-week class, and it's like, yeah, like you can go through the entire 4 weeks, but by the end of the 4 weeks, all the knowledge that you've like learned might work, but it also might not. Like
Yeah.
it might just
Yeah.
be like, cool, that's great,
Right.
now it's changed.
Right. Now Instagram has some kind of a new feature that you have to learn about. And then whatever you learned about over the last few years is outdated.
Doesn't work. Yeah. So I wouldn't invest in classes. I would invest in like things that are more like tangible, like a website. I would invest in like branding. I'd invest in things like the email list, like, you know, getting emails from for brands. So you can like send them emails and like contact them and stuff like that. But as far as like the knowledge, all the other stuff, you can find it on Google, you can find it on YouTube for free.
What about like human connections? How much has that played a role? Obviously, your partner being there in your life,
Yeah.
that has helped you a lot. But talk us about the human connections you made over the course of this career that you pursued, and
Yeah.
how much that shaped the person that you are and your thoughts. How much has it affected you?
Yeah, I'm growing into the role. In the beginning, I reached out literally to every photographer I could even get my hands on. I was like, hey, let's shoot, let's hang out, let's shoot, let's talk, let's just meet up, have coffee, whatever, and like talk and stuff. And that's what I was talking about before, where like early on in my career, I worked with a lot of photographers that were pushing themselves to like brands and like other people and like other stuff. So like I kind of like fit into it. So I would just start DMing people and being like, hey, do you want to shoot? Do you want to collaborate? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? And you can learn by what your style is by doing that, because not every single person is going to shoot the same way. Some people have a more artsy style, some people have more of like a raw style, some people have like candids, whatever it is.
Right.
So working with like a ton of different photographers will allow you to experience the different types of content, and then you can then hone in what you genuinely enjoy, and then you can reach out to more people like that.
We have Priya with us, aka the Wild Indian Girl. And so, Priya, my question is going to be a little bit weird because your profile today, if someone looks at it, you have basically everything done in your life. It kind of feels like that if someone looks at your profile, right?
I would say I've definitely changed my path. So like now I'm not so much about like exploring the world, but like helping other people explore as well.
Okay.
Um, So I've definitely changed it a little bit, but I still love to travel. I feel like as long as I love to travel, I'm
Right.
gonna do it. Yeah, I mean, I try my best to answer people's questions and I try my best to like, you know, help people out.
Right.
Um, but I don't know, I feel like there's always something to learn, and I'm always wanting to learn. So it's like I don't think I'll ever be like a full teacher, but
Right.
I would love to teach people how to travel and how to push past boundaries and stuff like that. I wanted to travel when I was like 21,
Right.
and I'm now 30, and I still want to, but I think my goals have changed. Instead of like go, 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 I enjoy being home because 30 hits different. You know, like when you wake up at airports, it's not the best sleep or whatever. So like my style of travel has changed.
Right.
Um, and like what I want has changed. Like now I'm not necessarily trying to like prove myself to anything or anybody. I'm more or less like traveling just to travel and like be with my husband who also enjoys traveling. So it's like now we're just kind of like living life. Um, and that might change. Like, I mean, I might wake up one day and just be like, oh, you know what? I actually want to go back to a corporate job. And I can
Right.
very much do that because there's no rules and there's no regulations. You can do whatever you want in this world as long as you're happy. You don't have to like put a limit to it and you don't have to feel bad about like changing your ideas like later on. Like I might wake up tomorrow and be like, I want to go back to school and I want to finish my law degree and I want to do this and I want to do that. And
Right.
that's fine. I don't necessarily think that's bad or negative in any way.
Right. No, that's beautiful. That's a good takeaway because for someone starting now, 10 years down the lane, if they want to understand how their thoughts might be, having a conversation with people like you will,
Mhm.
help them better look at pictures long term. It doesn't really have to be the same. It could be better, it could be worse, and it could be completely different from where you're starting today. So
Yeah.
what about your partner? Let's talk about Michael. How
Yeah.
important has he been in this journey of yours? And what kind of things has he helped you discover about yourself and the goals that you should have or the dreams that you might have down the line? So that, it's also for people out there to understand that having partners who, share your interests or, support you in these goals is a huge thing, right? It plays a huge role
Mhm.
in the success that you eventually have. And I have
Yeah.
my wife who, because of her and because of whom I was able to start this show, when I thought I'll just do a few bunch of episodes with a couple of friends, and down the line 35 episodes later, in conversation with you, it's a huge reason of my success behind the show. So let's talk about your partner and how does that help.
Yeah, I love my husband and I think his support is amazing and stuff. But if I was to be honest, for any listener
Right.
that wants to learn anything, I would not say look for support in someone else. If
Right.
you can't support yourself, no one else is going to. No one's going to push you to wake up every day, work out. Like, no one's going to do that.
Right.
So, while I do appreciate and love and cherish my husband, and I do get a boost of confidence and I do get a boost of, like, empowerment when I do something and he sees it through and he tells me, like, I knew you could do it. Like,
Right.
while that is something that does help, I will say, like, that's something that has to come in from yourself.
Right.
Um, so yeah,
Because we have your individual dreams and individual paths to take.
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And at
Mhm.
the end of the day, like if I wanted to travel the world and he didn't, we would find a way to like work with it. But
Right.
I don't necessarily think it's healthy to seek support from like other people and like validation from other people because
Right.
that has to come from within. And
Yeah.
that's the only way you're going to be successful in like the content creation that you're doing or like anything in life. I mean, yes, your wife did help you and push you a little bit, but your wife didn't force you to wake up every single day and reach out to these people. Like you did it yourself and you're doing it for yourself.
Yeah.
And that's really important. I feel like that's something not a lot of people talk about. Like a lot of times, even growing, like even in the beginning of this journey, I would always put my success in someone else. I would say, "Oh, I'm successful because of this person,"
Right.
and but that's not true. I'm successful
Right.
because I worked hard and I
Yeah.
pushed past these boundaries and I
Right.
put myself out there. That's the reason of my success, not someone else.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah. I mean, you can have your boosters in between now and then because that helps you motivate and inspired, but that can't be the real reason behind why you're doing that,
Yeah,
right? Because when you originally started,
exactly.
you did it by yourself, and then you have someone, come into your life in this journey of yours. So to continue doing what you love, it has to be something you started yourself. It can't be with the
Yeah,
help of someone else. So yeah,
exactly.
that's a good takeaway. How do you balance, Priya, of being who you are, wild Indian and a girl, while having to, get those brands and partnerships and those kind of, deals in this journey of yours? How do you stay true to who you are as Priya?
Um, I feel like a lot of that comes from my content. So I have gone to shoots where people will be like, oh, I'm going to do like a ton of makeup on you. And I draw the line and I say, no, we're not going to do that.
Right.
I am who I am. I have scars. I have dark circles. I have this, I have that. And that's going to be on camera. And I'm going to make it part of my story.
But were
I'm
you
not
like that from the beginning though? Like you can't have that
absolutely.
courage, have the courage and not have the fear, right? For, someone who's starting. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like today's world, like everything has to be perfect. There's so many filters out there that like fucking put on like mascara for you and like a full face makeup. And I'm like, what are you doing? And like, if people don't love you for like who you are with all your scars, with your dark circles, with the bags under your eyes, with all the salt and pepper and all like the ugliness of what makes you special,
right.
then what's the point? Like, what's the point of impressing them? What's the point of doing this? What's the point of doing that? And don't get me wrong, I think the people that do makeup and that like express themselves in that way, they have their own story and they're sharing their own thing. And a lot of times you'll see the ones that like do it well, they share both sides of the story. They
Right,
share like where they started and where they ended. And I like draw my lines very specifically. I say I will not cover any scars. I will not cover any of my any of my like imperfections.
right.
And I'll stick to that throughout my entire journey. And
Okay.
when my husband like edits my photos and stuff, I'll tell him, I'll be like, I'm okay with the dark circles. You don't need to edit those out. I'm okay with my pores being massive. You don't need to edit those out. And he'll respect that. And he'll be like, okay, yeah, that's great. If, for example, I have like a massive tomato stain on my shirt, he'll be like, I'm gonna remove that. And I'll be like, golden. But um
Right.
I'll as long as I'm comfortable with what I'm doing, I'll continue doing that. And that's the same for everybody else. So like as long as you're happy and you can wake up one day and like look at that like brand work or brand deal and not feel ashamed by it, you're golden. Like you do you. Like nobody else's opinion matters.
Yeah, I mean, if a couple of billion people out there are not happy with who you are and what you do, there's still a 500 million left on the other
Yeah.
side who will absolutely appreciate for who you are and what you believe in, right? So I
Yeah.
think that's what, yeah,
And I do want to make it clear, like when you start out to be an influencer, you're not trying to like impress people. I think a lot of like there's a lot of misconception on that. Like you're not trying to like show people whatever. I think more or less like a real good influencer helps people understand that they're not alone in what they're feeling.
right.
So it's not about the likes and it's not about how many people like looking at you. It's more or less like I am not alone. And I love the fact that I can connect with this person.
So Priya, I asked this to all my guests, and today I want to ask you as well. In this pursuit, in this passion of yours, in this journey, what is your Sankalp,
I don't think my content has anything to do with my Sankalp. I
right?
feel like I love my dog, Atlas. You'll see him in a lot of my content. Like
Right,
I love that guy. He's like the best and the purest version of love.
right,
Um, if I can have it my way, I would rescue like all the dogs.
right.
And that's like my end goal,
Okay,
honestly, is to like have a house and to be able to take in stray dogs and help them find forever homes and like help them express love and stuff like that.
Right.
I, which also doesn't align with the Indian,
Yeah.
the traditional roads.
Right.
So yeah, I feel like my content doesn't necessarily show what I really want to do at the end of the day. At the end of the day, like I want to inspire people and I want to inspire like women to travel and to like see the world, but also like to do that to find what they actually want to do in life, not just traveling. Like not just that, like there's a lot going on in this world that like people are blind to, so like traveling opens up those eyes and like shows you that there's more to life than like the one path that you've chosen or that has been chosen for you. So like I want to inspire people to go out there and see the world and see what they can do and how they can help. And with my travels, I've found that I love animals and I would love to have a house and have like 20 dogs and maybe a couple of goats and stuff like that.
That's beautiful. Here's manifesting that for you and
Yeah.
along with your partner as well. So thank you, Priya,
Thank
for
you.
taking us behind the scenes of, the backstage of the Instagram world, if I can call that. For the listeners, if you want to see what Priya is up to, you can obviously find her in various social media platforms. But thank you for being real and candid with us,
Yeah.
your journey so far. And yeah, this is Wild Indian Girl, and I got her Indian version of Dora. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for having, being on the show. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, take care, Priya. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.